Ross Noble here, and I'm on this show right now.
Hi, it's Rochelle Q.
Hi, I'm Astro. And I'm Alex from UB40. I'm Nick Ewan.
Thursday breakfast on Source FM with Benjamin Makin. Woo! Good morning, people. How are you doing? Thank you very much indeed for joining us today on your Thursday morning Source FM breakfast show. Now, first of all, a very exciting message today. I am delighted to announce that this show is now sponsored by the University of Exeter. We've partnered up, so that is great news because this show is brought to you well and truly by the University of Exeter. Well, I'm Ben Makin anyway. Very good morning to you. Now today, I am joined by my partner in crime and guest co-presenter for the day, Stephanie Hare. Steph, how are you doing? You okay?
I'm really well, thank you. How are you?
Yes, very well. Yes, very well. This is looking like a good morning, actually. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up. Shall I tell these listeners what I've got, Steph?
Yes.
Right, well, today, first up this morning is a live interview. Live, we're going to have a call in. And this is actually from basically an ex-spy. So I think that's pretty exciting. Okay, this guy, he's the former senior analyst for GCHQ. We've actually had the ex-head of GCHQ on a previous show as well. So this is pretty cool. We're racking up our list of, top government officials here. Getting, that's what Source FM does, isn't it? We're getting powerful here. Powerful context. Yeah, that's us. Anyway, former GCHQ senior analyst. Actually, today, he's actually chatting to us about a brand new series, that's going to be on Fox. And it's actually kicking off today. It's called Deep State. Actually, starring Mark Strong. You might know Mark. He's a very, very dangerously handsome actor. He's in Kingsman. Steph, you're a fan of him in Kingsman,
yes,
I believe.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's a fantastic new series. So we're going to be talking to him live, actually, from 8 o'clock this morning. But that's not all. There's some other exciting news as well. And that is, today marks the grand return, and I mean the grand return, of Sasha and Dave, the profs. The profs are returning today. So you might have come across Sasha and Dave before. They come on the show to debate various topics. I put various topics to them. Sometimes I ask them to debate it, sometimes I ask them to discuss it. So today we've got a discussion, and actually this is a question that I put to them because, as we all know, the trailer for the new Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is out. Of course, it is coming out soon, a couple of months away, I think, that's all. And actually, it's rumoured today, actually, that very soon there'll be another trailer dropping for that. Anyway, so, this kind of got me thinking, and I thought, well, I really want to know if a Jurassic Park is actually possible. Is it theoretically possible? So this is a question that I put to the profs, to the great minds that is Sasha and Dave. I basically asked them, is a Jurassic Park theoretically possible? And on top of that as well, I wanted to know a kind of wish list for, so if it's possible to resurrect long dead, long extinct organisms, which of course is the whole point of Jurassic Park, and really I'm referring to the original here, of course, where they use this ancient DNA contained in tree sap, and they basically use this to create, to resurrect essentially these ancient organisms. And really, what I wanted to know, on top of that as well, if this is possible, I wanted to know, what would your ideal wish list of animals be? Do you want to see a T-Rex, for instance? I mean, I definitely want to see a T-Rex.
Oh, I want to.
Yeah. Well, last time Steph was on the show, actually, she absolutely hammered me at a dinosaur quiz, so we're not going to be returning to that, and I'm not even going to... No, I'm going to delete that, actually, off the catch-up, so no one can even listen to that ever again. That was my worst radio moment of my life so far, that was, Steph.
Was it?
Getting absolutely hammered. But of course you are a teacher, so you're allowed to be knowledgeable, obviously. Okay. But I just got hammered, didn't I? And that was all Sam's fault. Sam, okay, no, mind it. I'm sounding bitter here. Let's move on. What have we got so far? Then we've got the live call in at 8. We've got Sasha and Dave chatting. Now we've also, because this is, it's full of good news today, isn't it? Full of fun stuff, because this actually marks our 1 year anniversary here on Source FM. This is exactly 1 year since we got here on your Thursday morning breakfast show. So, because of that, I thought I'd really like to play some highlights. So, a couple of highlights. There are not too many highlights to choose from. And obviously, you're thinking, but Ben, right now is a highlight. Just hearing your sultry tones. Well, thank you very much indeed. Compliment taken. But, I just thought, well, let's choose some of the some of my personal favourite interviews. I can't really say that, can I? I can't say favourites. Some of these interviews which I thought you might not have heard in a bit. All right, let's just put it at that. So, going to start off this morning actually with one of those interviews, and then it's going to get exciting because we're going to fade that one out, pop that one off, and then we're going to go straight into that live call. So look forward to the live call. For now, though, I'm going to leave you. With a bit of Ross Noble, I think, actually. What about some Ross? We had Ross Noble on a show a while ago talking about his new TV series. So let's have him on again. Also got a competition on the way today. Going to give you some weekend tickets. Got a couple of these to give away. VIP weekend tickets to the Exeter Festival of Southwest Food and Drink, the 5th, 6th and 7th of May. So if you're interested in those, stay tuned. Going to give them away. But for now, I'm going to leave you with this Ross Noble interview. And of course, we will be fading this out very soon at 8 o'clock because that's when our live interview starts. So stay tuned, people. Now, I hope you enjoy and I hope you're having a fantastic morning so far. But stay with us. Don't go anywhere. I mean, we're going to try and make it even better for you now, aren't we? What do you think, Steph? It's going to be better, isn't it?
It's much better.
Yeah, it's better already. That's what Steph's thinking. Anyway, all right, let's leave it with Ross Noble for a bit, shall we? Yeah, enjoy.
Thursday breakfast on Source FM.
Hello there, this is Ross Noble here, and I'm on this show right now.
Welcome, good listeners. We have Ross right here with us. I can hear the man live. He's loud and clear. Fantastic. Welcome, Ross. Now, I'm just going to, let's get started with that picture that I just mentioned a second ago then. This picture of you getting a bike up a vertical incline, basically. It's a vertical stream, and you're getting a bike up it somehow. And this is the kind of thing, I imagine, which we're going to be seeing a bit more of in Off-Road, which premieres tonight, of course, on Dave at 8.
That's right, yeah. It's a show about, it's sort of the antidote to all the, Joanna Lumley across Norway on a pogo stick, all those sorts of shows. It's kind of, it's me taking on the Scottish 6-day trial, which is, this event takes place over a week in the Highlands of Scotland, and it's just about riding some of the most sort of difficult terrain that you can on a motorcycle. And basically, I mean, if you're into motorcycles, you'll enjoy it. But if you're not, if you just like watching people being slowly, mentally, and physically
people suffer,
just broken, then it's ideal,
Yeah, if you just want to tune in to see yourself becoming a broken man, then you can check it out.
Exactly. It's for people who are fans of mine, but also people who don't like me as well. It's a win-win in television terms.
Wow, you're catering to all audiences here. I'm impressed.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Yeah. And this is actually, I believe I'm correct in saying, this is the oldest motorcycle trials event in the world, isn't it? The Scottish 6 Days trial.
Oldest motorsport event in the world. It's been for over 100 years they've been doing it.
And the thing is, it must have been, I don't know what it was, interesting to hear kind of what it was like for you, but I imagine, probably got such kind of a hardcore, fan base, this event, lots of really hardcore bikers. And then, of course, you've done motorcycling in yourself in the past, of course, freewheeling, people might have seen that already. But, what was it like kind of going into that area? Because, I mean, this is deliberately kind of, the most hardcore motorcycling event you can do, right? So I imagine it was quite strange entering that kind of sphere, if you like. Yeah,
there was a lot of people sort of... when I got up there was a lot of people that were just basically... and we show it in the show. We don't gloss over this. Basically, the first episode is people basically saying to my face and to the camera, he won't do this. This is basically he won't make the first day, So we had we had a lot of negativity. There's just sort of a hardcore of kind of a lot of the top guys were like really encouraging, basically saying just go for it and stuff. But the thing about this event is it's so hard that there was kind of there was a lot of people. It would be like if I don't know. I'm trying to think of the nearest equivalent. If it was like if there was like a boxing match, I don't know. Yeah, it would be like it'd be like Jack D turning up to like a boxing match, something like that.
Yeah, no. Well, it must have been quite almost quite a shock for some people. Seeing yourself known as a comedian, primarily, of course, and seeing you arrive. But you went for it.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah. But it's all sort of slowly over the course of the event, people start to come around and go, "Oh no, actually, he's putting the effort in."
So, he's actually doing this.
Yeah.
Did you get anyone asking for kind of one-liners from you as you're going around the tracks or anything like that? Or was everyone just too focused on surviving?
Funnily enough, yes, that is actually that does happen at quite a pivotal point in the show, just when I'm at my absolute lowest. Yeah. And a little kid who's watching goes, "Tell us a joke."
I knew it. It must have been quite tough at the time, but I was secretly really hoping that happened to you. It happens, and we show it in the show. Yeah. Fantastic. It's 3 episodes, right? It runs for 3 episodes.
Yeah, 3 1 hours, yeah.
Fantastic. 8 on Dave.
Yeah.
Wicked. Yeah, and you know, one thing I was thinking, Ross, was I think you might have just missed one trick. I don't know. Maybe it does come in, but I think because you know, I'm gonna have to admit to you straight off that my all-time favourite horror comedy is Stitches.
Oh wow,
That's
great.
fantastic.
Thanks.
But why didn't you? Should have used the tricycle from Stitches as the evil clown, or just on one part of it. You know, once you've already done it, you know, you proved all the haters wrong. Like I've done it. I'm here. I've done it. Now here's what you kind of imagine that I would do. You know, here's the kind of comedian's take on it.
The tricycle in that film, like for those, because I know it's hard to believe, but there might be people who haven't seen Stitches.
No.
It's not for me to say that it's the Citizen Kane of the slasher clown genre. But it basically in that film there's a chase that takes place on push bikes, and Stitches the clown is on a tiny tricycle, and there's a bit in it, you know, the bit where I sort of like go up the hill and then the wheels spin. I pick up the tricycle and run after them. That was the first take we did, and the reason that happened was because I got up there and the tricycle just wouldn't. The hill was too steep, and it did just start slipping.
Oh, so you were actually supposed to try and make it up.
So yeah, I was supposed to ride into the shot and then ride out the other side of the shot, and it didn't happen. So as the wheels started spinning, so I just thought, well, I can't just stop. So I stood up, picked up the tricycle, and then ran after them just as a joke.
Oh, this is one of the best moments as well.
And the director goes, "Cut!" And I went, "I don't know what to do there." And he went, "No, it's brilliant." And then that ended up in the final. So that was actually me. That was never intended. That wasn't in the script. In fact, there was supposed to be that chase was supposed to be a lot longer, and we filmed a load of stuff with you know, jumping like.
A couple of scares in there.
We did like a whole day's filming on a trailer. It's a bit like, you know, in Indiana Jones where they were supposed to do this big rooftop chase.
Yes.
And then they ran out of time, and so we just pulled out the gun and shot the guy.
Yeah, classic moment.
It's kind of the same thing, you know. We were supposed to be this big chase sequence, and because I picked the bike up and just ran after
it.
That's it. Right, that'll do. So that's behind the scenes of the movie.
Shame you couldn't have just done this for this, isn't it? Really, just like, here we are.
But funny enough, I was talking to the producer of Stitch the other day, and I was sort of saying, I think if we do a sequel, then we might put some trial bike stuff in, because you know, because we save money on a stunt man if I do it myself. You know?
Well, that's it. Yeah, now you can do your own stunts on the bike. That'd be great. Stitches gets an upgrade.
Yeah, I think it could happen.
Well, I for one am very much looking forward to seeing how you cope with this. Have you got any tough moments which you're allowed to share? I don't want you to give away too much, of course.
In episode 2, myself and my mate that I'm doing it with, we have a massive falling out. There's a big argument, and that also coincides with me going over the handlebars about 10 times and landing in a heap. So yeah, there's plenty of moments in the show.
Excellent. Well, I think one last question for you, actually, Ross, and actually one of my favourite questions, actually, I think, is, you know, would you have a song choice that you'd like to kind of accompany here? You've kind of got in your head, like your own little theme tune, especially if you had any kind of ongoing songs that you were liking, you know, around the time of the event, even, or if not, just any song that you like. I want to get something for you.
Well, there is in the show. Our support crew, Dave and Sean, start having a conversation about Phil Collins and whether the song's called "Against the Odds" or "Against All Odds," and then they go backwards and forwards, arguing about what the name of the song is.
Which one is it? You know, this is a question which always comes up, I think.
Well, there's a film called "Against All Odds," and the song's called "Against the Odds," or vice versa. I'm not really sure. But then that's basically what. So they're in this van. So while we're having this big argument and then riding across the.
It's an important debate, though.
Yeah, because what happens in the show is basically there's all this like extreme sports stuff, and then it cuts back to Sean and Dave in the van, who are basically just eating magnums and pork pies and.
Debating Phil Collins
stuff. So and then so we actually there is a bit of a there's a bit of a Phil Collins montage at one point in the show. Because the thing about the show is that like it's a real sports documentary, but it's a Mickey take of sports documentaries at the same time.
Fantastic.
So yeah. Got a bit of an 80s vibe to it.
Thanks very much anyway for your time, Ross. We'll get some
Lovely.
Phil Collins on the show for you now. But thanks very much for your time, and I'll let you go. Thank you.
All right, cheers, Ed.
Well, very exciting news, people, because we do have Cameron Cahoon on the line with us right now. Actually, Cameron, can you hear us okay there?
I can indeed, yeah. Ben, how are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Well, a very warm welcome to you, sir. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I mean, this is exciting because we're basically chatting to an ex-spy here, really, aren't we? Let's be honest. Let's be real.
That's correct, yeah. I used to work for British intelligence for a few years, in the 2000s and an early part of this decade as well.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it's an honour to have you here with us anyway. And this is actually an exciting topic, actually, because this brand new TV show, Deep State, actually featuring Mark Strong. Now, I've actually got my partner in crime, Stephanie, here today, actually, and she's actually a big fan of Mark Strong, aren't you, Steph?
Oh, I am indeed.
Yes, so we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, what's your favourite Mark Strong production?
Well, we went to see Kingsman, and he's in that, so
We did, yes.
big
It was very
fans of
good.
that one.
Yeah, it's a great film.
He does kind of look exactly, and this is the thing. He just looks like how I imagine, and I bet everybody's in agreement with me here. I bet he looks like the kind of typical spy that every British person kind of imagines. All these kind of fictional spies like James Bond and all these people.
Absolutely, no, he ticks all the boxes in that regard, and I think I'm sure it's not the last espionage thriller he'll appear in.
Yes, I mean the thing is though, what they really should be doing is asking people like yourself to actually, say, okay, does Mark Strong look like a spy? They should be asking you, shouldn't they?
Yeah, that's true. Well, the issue is, of course, if you look like what everybody thinks you would look like in the movies, then you wouldn't be a very good spy.
Yes.
So there is that. But so I'm not sure Mark will be actually getting a job in British intelligence anytime.
Not anytime soon. Yeah,
No.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say that actually, because if you're kind of just kind of raucously handsome and just strutting around like that, you're bound to attract a bit of attention, which I'm sure is kind of the opposite of what you kind of want as a spy.
Yeah, I mean, in any intelligence operation, particularly
Yes.
in the real world, you want to be kind of there in the background, and no ripples going on, no guns being fired, and no car chases. Just
Yes.
everything happens very smoothly. So
Yes. Well, I know one of my, which was actually a big surprise to them at the time, but to one of my very good old friends, actually, their grandfather, actually, and they didn't know this, and he kept this secret. Quite sad, really. He didn't ever tell anybody right up until he did pass away. And actually, they found out that he was actually behind enemy lines and doing all this kind of incredible work for us that just no one knew about, and they only found out because they going through old things of his, basically. Incredible.
yeah, and that's the thing with the espionage is that to be a good spy, you've got to be able to keep secrets and keep it to yourself, really. And a lot of people do take it to the grave with them.
Yes, yeah. And I guess coming to the brand new drama, of course, Deep State. You actually did I believe they actually did a bit of research, and this is quite entertaining. Finding out about people's kind of views about it all. And I guess it doesn't really come as much surprise because it all sounds quite inspired to me by all of the all the well-known typical drama spies. Bond, obviously, there's Bourne and all these kind of things, but people actually owning up to saying that they probably wouldn't make a very good spy because, as you said, they're probably more interested in the kind of glamour and the walking around that they kind of imagine goes with it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I remember from my training is people love talking about themselves. So, and we were told to kind of exploit that to some extent.
Yes.
So I think people, they a lot of them maybe think they could be a good spy, but I think keeping secrets and keeping stum is perhaps more of a challenge than they would think.
Yes.
So I mean, the show starts tonight on Fox at 9. A great cast, as you said: Mark Strong, Joe Dempsey, and Alexander Petrie. So be interesting to see if everyone checks it out and what they think.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we certainly will. That's for sure. So I do urge everybody else to. Looks awesome. Absolutely love this kind of thing. I mean, as I kind of readily admit to everyone, I absolutely love all of the basically anything that involves spy. I absolutely love it. But the thing is, as you're saying, I think it's interesting for people to get an insight. Anyway, obviously they can watch these dramas and that's awesome. But I think it's really interesting for people as well to kind of get an insight into actually the kind of real work that does go on. Like the work, for instance, that you used to do. And I imagine a lot of it probably, as you're saying. What are kind of some of the key traits? Actually, I mean, I know we've said Obviously, there's the obvious. Don't give it away. Don't be walking around saying you want a martini or whatever, and driving around really expensive sports cars and stuff. That probably doesn't help. But I mean, if we're trying to think about an ideal spy, just for a second, what would you actually think are some of those traits?
I think, if you think, one thing that a lot of the movies and series nail on the head is the idea that they're trying to solve a puzzle. So you're trying to piece together, how does this person know this person, how are they involved, who has access to the intelligence, and that really involves a lot of curiosity and a lot of, I suppose, gumption and tenacity to basically stick at a problem and trying to work out how lots of different people are connected and what the issue is. And I think curiosity would probably be the alongside keeping stum and keeping secrets. That would be the key skill, I would imagine.
Yes. I'm kind of hoping that maybe I should become a spy, Steph. I'm not sure. No, I can't actually, but I'd like to imagine that I could. It's because it sounds a tiny bit, and I'm probably totally wrong here, but it sounds a tiny bit like it's fairly similar in that regard. In that kind of taking on an awful lot of information and kind of working out those general patterns and whatever else. It kind of sounds a bit similar to a scientist's role. And coming from a science background, I'm kind of pumped. I reckon I'm going to be a spy.
Yeah, and you need an all-star cast. You need people who are really, almost scientific with their mindsets, but you need people who can go out to the cocktail parties as well. And it doesn't take one or the other; it takes both. And as you guys know, down in Cornwall, there's the GCHQ site down there. So
yes,
there's plenty of guys around that are working on this.
Fantastic. Well, coming back to the series just briefly, and then I will, of course, begin to let you go, conscious of your time this morning. Thanks for joining us so far, though. And of course, the whole kind of name and idea of deep state. Well, I suppose the name, the name deep state obviously implies that there's kind of these, grand kind of, almost like companies working behind the scenes, a bit like, Spectre in James Bond and all of this. And, actually, this is one of the things that they were looking at in their survey, I believe, that actually, remarkably, a lot of people do believe that there is some kind of deep state.
Yeah, that was one of the most interesting things in research, that there's, lots of people think there's a, secret cabal of elites who are, controlling the country or on foreign policy, which is interesting, and I can see why. But especially at the moment with things like Brexit, I think that the government's fairly overloaded. But you never know the truth, and even from working inside government, difficult to say one way or the other. But it's a fascinating idea and a concept, and I think one that will be really interesting to explore tonight.
Absolutely. Well, we're all looking forward to the show, and thanks very much indeed for your time this morning, Cameron. Now, I did actually, of course, if there's anything that you would like to add, anything you'd like to shout out, as they say, to the great Cornish public, please go ahead. But I have selected you a theme tune, and it could only be one theme tune. Would you like to hear it? I'll play it in the background for you a little bit before I let you go. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, I can't wait. It sounds good. Lovely to talk to you this morning, Ben.
No. Well, thank you very much indeed.
All right.
Now, I will just play your theme tune, and then I shall let you go. And you're already going to know what this is. It could only be one, right? Let's get it on anyway, shall we? Now, can you hear that coming through? It's a bit of a subtle bit at the moment. It'll be clear in a second, though, I think. Hear that? You are of course Mr. Bond. That's what we've got you there.
Indeed.
Well, Cameron, thanks so much. Thanks for your time, and have a fantastic rest of the day. And thanks for talking us to here on Source FM.
Thank you. Cheers, Ben.
Bye, Cameron. Thanks.
Thanks.
Oh, that's great. I think he was too modest to enjoy his theme tune, Steph, don't you?
I think he was.
He is Mr. Bond, though. Let's get this on. This is all about Cameron. Well, actually, absolute pleasure. We had a spy on the show, Steph.
We did.
How cool's that?
Really cool.
A live chat with a spy. Well, now come on, let's enjoy this. No, I forgot the number one question.
Oh, what was it?
I was going to ask how you get a license to kill.
Oh.
It's all about that last chord there, the ring. That's the best bit, I think. The best bit of all of that. Well, absolute pleasure to have Cameron on the show. Thanks very much indeed to Cameron Cahoon for coming on the show. Of course, former GCHQ senior analyst, to chat about that brand new series, Deep State, well, starring Mark Strong. And that's a key point there. Mark Strong's a great and devilishly handsome man, isn't he, Steph?
Oh, he is.
Anyway, that starts tonight at 9 on Fox, if you're interested. So you can, of course, check that out if that sounds good to you. Now, coming up, as promised, we do have the return of the profs. Woo! And the good thing is, because obviously Cameron there was very polite, he didn't say, Ben, there's absolutely not a chance that you would be a spy. For a start, you're announcing that you want to be a spy live on the radio, which doesn't really bode well, does it, if you want to be a spy? And second of all, why on earth do you think you would have any of the skills for that? I probably have probably not one. Cameron's clearly a very modest man there, but he doesn't like to shatter my dreams. I think maybe I will still be a spy, Steph. You never know. But anyway, I reckon Sasha and Dave might make good spies actually, because they are, of course, top scientists, the professors, and their whole job revolves around taking on board, countless bits of information and kind of synthesizing these into taking all this vastly complex information and kind of synthesizing these ideas which they can then communicate on. I mean, that's almost the definition of a scientist. So I reckon they'd make good spies. So I think we should get them on next, Steph. What do you think?
Yeah, let's get them on.
So actually I posed a question to them, and I actually do at this point encourage everybody to text in a question for the professors, and I will put it to them. And this can be anything. This can be anything. So what I asked them this week, actually, and this is a good example, and I let them explain this themselves, because they'll make a far better job. But I asked them, is Jurassic Park possible? Because and I also put in a little side note: do not shatter my dreams here. Be careful what you say. No, I didn't really say that. Is Jurassic Park possible? So, with the trailer for the new one's actually rumoured to be dropping, actually very, very soon indeed. We've already seen one of the trailers, of course, but another trailer's coming out for the new Jurassic World, which is actually coming out soon, very soon, a couple months, I think, The Fallen Kingdom. We were really kind of talking about the original Jurassic Park. Brilliant film. We watched it the other day again, didn't we, Steph?
We did.
Fantastic film. Anyway, it's an obvious question, is it? I mean, we all want that to be real. Well, probably some of us want that to be real. And I basically asked him, can we do this? Essentially, can you take the DNA of long extinct organisms and can you use this to reconstruct the whole organism, or particular genes or whatever? And basically, could you use this to create a park like Jurassic Park if you were given an unlimited budget? So that's what the question for them today is, and they're gonna discuss this a little bit. And I also asked them, let's forget about the possibility side for a minute. If it were possible, I also wanted to know, what would your kind of ideal organisms that you would like to see? So what are your ideal extinct organisms that you would personally like to see? That I asked them that as well. So almost like like if you were allowed to resurrect any organism from the past, what would it be? What would your wish list for that be? So here they are, talking a little bit about this. As usual, we do touch on some fantastic topics here. We do actually very briefly touch on the possibility of alien life in this interview, which is great because that links very nicely actually to a discussion they've had previously on the show, which went down rather well, and that was the discussion about the possibility of life on other planets or elsewhere in the universe. Essentially, it doesn't have to be on other planets, obviously, but that was another question that I posed to the profs a while ago. So if you have any questions for the profs, so have a listen to this, and if you have any questions, anything at all that you'd like to ask them, it could be as simple as, I want Iron Man's suit, when are they going to build that? You could ask them that if you wanted to. Or if you're a fan of video games and you've ever played Bioshock, is that possible? Can you make plasmids that give you superpowers? I don't know, whatever you want. You can ask them anything you want. And just, you can get them to me, actually, anywhere you want. If you've got the internet handy, pop yourself on the Source FM website, go on the schedule, find the Thursday morning breakfast show, and under there's contact details for me. You can email me, you can message me on Facebook, anything you like. You can also text me directly, and I can pick these up actually while I'm presenting as well. So you can do this if you want song requests as well. This is the cool thing. But if you've got any questions for the profs in particular, I'd really like to hear from you. Just text me, 07860 670 917. So that number again is 07860 670 917 if you've got any questions for the profs. Now, I would like to link this into a bit of a competition today, Steph. What do you say to that? What do you think?
I think we should.
Shall we play a little song in the background? I'm going to play the Bat song because this is my competition song. This is the song that was made with bat sonar. So I'm going to play this.
Very impressive.
This is my competition song. I play this when there's a competition. And the competition today is for VIP weekend tickets to the Exeter Festival of Southwest Food and Drink from the 5th to the 7th of May. I'm going to like to tie this in, actually. I'm going to tie this into this next discussion we're going to have. If you want to win those tickets, there's a pair of tickets to give away to one fabulous listener. So if you're tuned in, then you are a VIP. You're a show VIP, and you are in a chance to win these if you want. I want to hear if you... So join in with this discussion. What animal or what organism, doesn't have to be an animal, what organism would you resurrect from the past? So what extinct organism would you resurrect? You know, woolly mammoth, T-Rex, whatever, you know, whatever you want to see. What would you personally resurrect? The coolest answer, in my opinion, the coolest answer. I'll let Steph judge this as well, Steph.
Okay.
Actually, maybe, Steph, you could be the sole judge of this.
Okay.
The coolest organism. Which one would you resurrect from the past if you could, okay, if it were possible? Which one would you do, okay? The coolest answer wins those tickets. How about that? That's not bad, is it?
That's not bad at all.
Couple tickets to the Exeter Festival, yeah, where you can get food and drink. That's wicked. Okay, for now, though, I'm going to play this section. This is the question, then. Sasha and Dave, is Jurassic Park possible? 3, 2, 1, fight!
So the answer to the question is yes, some extinct organisms can be resurrected potentially.
That's what you mean by theory. Theoretical.
If we have their DNA,
Yeah.
then in principle,
Yeah, in theory.
right, we could build a woolly mammoth womb,
Yeah.
and we could rear a woolly mammoth.
Well, no. So woolly mammoth, actually, we do. So the Jurassic Park, the argument against Jurassic Park is that
We have no DNA.
anything older than mammoths,
Oh.
the DNA just doesn't hang around. I mean, even the stuff in SAP, it's just there's not enough of it, and there's not enough complete sequences to be able to actually do anything like they suggested in Jurassic Park, in the original Jurassic Park. So, but in principle, in theory, if we did have such DNA, then
In
yes,
principle,
we could in principle bring, you know, clone anything or you know, build anything. You know, we're pretty much there now, constructing these artificial life forms. I mean, admittedly, we can constructing artificial life forms from scratch, where we can only really do things that are a bit like bacteria. So we can't, you know, we haven't been able to do anything that's kind of more complicated than a bacterium. Yeah. But with a kind of mixture of kind of cloning technology and the kind of things that they suggested in Jurassic Park, where you just kind of snip a few sequences into things that are out there now and use the machinery that they might need to get things going, you know, the eggs and stuff, and wombs if you need them or whatever, then yeah, you know, in principle, absolutely. But, I mean, given an unlimited budget now, you know, you couldn't create Jurassic Park. I mean, you might be able to create Pleistocene Park, okay, where we could
giant kangaroos. I love it.
Well, I don't know. I don't know whether anybody's found well preserved, because in the tropics, in the hot bits of the world, the DNA doesn't last long at all. It's all been from Siberia.
Permafrost,
the permafrost things is where they found the kind of. But we could bring back some hominins, for example.
We could resurrect Neanderthals.
Yeah, and
Imagine
maybe.
Imagine the ethical debates that would spark. What's human? What's not human?
Well,
how do we deal with chimpanzees, our cousins?
We already have that problem with the existence of chimpanzees. Okay, so then now asking a wish list of things I would like to see. I think from a professional perspective, I don't know that I'm that bothered, to be honest. No, I'm not sure. I'm more interested in understanding the kind of principles of things rather than being able to observe something in detail
or something like that. You know,
I mean, if I was somebody who cared about figuring out what the Earth was like in the past, then in principle you could reverse engineer the environment. I mean, in principle, you know, really, probably
Eden
not
type project.
Yeah, I mean, not where we are now. We'd probably need a few more years of kind of figuring out stuff to be able to kind of take an organism that we found and figure out what kind of world it lived in.
Probably the only thing I'd be interested in seeing would be a Neanderthal. So, can they talk?
Sure.
Tell us about?
Okay. So it's as far as our origins are concerned, then we're not really going back very far. We're going back 8 million years maximum, because that's when we split from chimps. or when our lineage splits
Yeah,
from
2 to
chimps.
5, I thought. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we had
Yeah.
this debate earlier,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but you're basing it on molecular data that probably, because that's probably the stuff you're reading, but the fossils and molecular data consensus is about 8 million years for roughly. So it's older than 5 million for sure. But anyway, the bottom line is though, it would be if we wanted to really understand ourselves, because the problem is understanding us is really difficult, like especially some of the key things, some of the really key adaptations that we have. For example, language. Nothing else has language. So studying language from an evolutionary perspective is really tough.
Sure.
Because, I mean...
N equals 1.
Yeah, N equals 1. So it would be cool, as Dave said, to be able to bring back Homo heidelbergensis, Homo sapiens neanderthalensis, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, have a look to see whether they had anything that remotely resembled a spontaneous language, although it would be very difficult to do because probably...
Language is learned.
Well, there is... Well, we already know this from things like birdsong and all the rest of it. If just because you have a chick of a nightingale, for example, doesn't mean it's going to spontaneously produce anything like the nightingale song, because there is this kind of inherited niche, aspects
But it would
of
still
the niche.
give you some idea of capacity to learn, appreciation for the things that we appreciate. It would, it would be just really interesting
Sure.
to see what they're like.
Sure, we could do the kinds of experiments that people have done on our closest living ancestors for linguistic purposes, where they've tried to raise chimps and bonobos and gorillas as children and teach them language, and they found that there are limits. Now, you could do the same thing, but there are problems with... I mean, that approach has been criticised a lot in terms of what it's really telling us about anything.
I just want to... I don't care about that. I want to sit around a table with a nice bottle of Bordeaux and a bit of roast chicken and just see how it works out.
Well, okay, so non-professionally then, from that kind of bottle of Bordeaux chicken perspective, I mean, I
know
think
red wine and chicken doesn't go on for a lot of people, but it works for me.
Yeah, but he's from Australia, so but we won't go there anymore in this particular. The irony is that I really don't know anything about wines, even though I sound the way that I do, and Dave is actually a proper connoisseur, even though he sounds the way he does. But shall we say, I think from a kind of just for shits and giggles, if I'm allowed to say that on radio, then I mean, seeing a T-Rex would be phenomenal, or actually Triceratops was my favourite as a kid, so I'd love to see one of those. Yeah, I mean, that moment when I watched... I mean, I'm old enough...
over the horizon and you bring it down with a 40... No,
I'm just saying, when I watched the original Jurassic Park in the cinemas, and that, I mean, the music and everything, when they first saw the dinosaurs, I mean, it was extremely moving moment, because it was... I mean, it was moving from a lot of perspectives. It's moving as a scientist, too, because seeing something that you've only imagined and thought deeply about become flesh and go in front of you is, had resonance to me, because I'm a theoretician. I spend all my time thinking about stuff. So, and almost none of my ideas have ever been manifest in any kind of way that, I would...
Anyone would recognise.
Exactly, anybody... Sense. Exactly. I mean, I'm just known as throwing out weird and wonderful ideas. I don't really expect them to work. So I mean, that's nice. That would be... it's a bit like nowadays, I guess, astrobiologists are making a lot of predictions about what life is going to be like in different places. And so
on that point, I spoke with a chap the other day who some of the experimental work he does is exposing human cell lineages to extraterrestrial proteins, amino acids, to look at what effects these extraterrestrial amino acids have on human cells. That really appealed to my sense of, wow, if we're going to go out and venture into space as a species, we need to know what these things...
So are these amino... I mean, I didn't realise that there are actual kind of amino acids that we'd never seen on Earth.
Yeah.
Or are they just the same kind of amino acid that happens to originate elsewhere?
No, I think my understanding is, and I could be wrong, but my understanding is that there are amino acids that don't exist on Earth.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Which, if I could be wrong, but I think that's what... I didn't think to ask that question. But I
know that they found building components of stuff that is organic in in kind of extraterrestrial materials.
Yeah.
And so this has kind of led people to believe, to kind of postulate that you don't need to have. We talked about this a while back when we were talking about kind of life outside of Earth, but like you don't need to have everything happening in each place independently. You could have progressively happening in different places and mixing a little bit, through these kind of extraterrestrial kind of interchanges. So I mean, that kind of thing wouldn't surprise me if those kind of influences would be there. I mean, I guess it would be quite surprising if there were kind of xeno amino acids that are kind of properly alien in the kind of strongest sense of the word.
The universe is big.
It is, but we haven't observed. I mean, we haven't really observed any really good evidence that there's life anywhere else. I mean, we've observed that there are components of what we have life here, but that doesn't necessarily suggest that they came from elsewhere. It could be that there's just it happened here, bits and been blown off Earth, and they've come back. I mean, anyway, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying any of these things. It's just, for me, having proper, like, hardcore, hard-nosed, empirical evidence that there's something non-terrestrial that's kind of as complex as life.
We're going back to where we came from.
Well, it's massive. It will be the biggest. It will be the biggest find
ever.
Yeah, absolutely, ever.
Oh.
Pretty much, if that happens.
I think that would be Nobel Prize territory.
Well, that was a great discussion there with Sasha and Dave. Thanks very much to Sasha and Dave for coming on the show. Got a few questions through for the profs for next time, so thanks very much indeed for messaging in. I will certainly get all of those questions to the profs, and we will hear them on a future show very, very soon, talking about those. And as always then, so if you have come up with some questions during that, do please feel very free indeed to text me. I will be delighted to hear from you, and you can text me directly on 07860 670 917 if you've got any questions at all for the profs. Now, a few really interesting things brought up in that discussion, actually. For example, that discussion just towards the end there, actually, about the possibility of life on other planets. Of course, we have had a full discussion about that exact topic on a previous show, with the profs. So do listen back if you're interested in that kind of thing. But that idea about amino acids, of course, amino acids being the building blocks of proteins, of course, and this really gives rise to really all of the pieces and things, or a great number of the pieces that we see in cells, really. So they really are essential for building up cells and indeed living things in general. And basically, there's this idea that Dave actually was talking about towards the end there, about there being, of course, numerous other amino acids out there that perhaps aren't used by living organisms on Earth for whatever reason, and basically this research looking into, could they be used, and if so, why aren't they used on Earth, and things like this, and are there amino acids out there which are associated with life on other planets, for instance? And of course, these are questions we don't have the answers to currently, but I think absolutely fascinating to think about. I think actually there was a study not long ago that I was looking at actually. And actually, this was a simulation that these researchers had run, basically looking at all of the potential forms of different amino acids that could be potentially used. And of course, there are a great number of these. So it's really interesting to think about, what kind of variety, variety that we're kind of currently missing, perhaps could be used by living organisms on other planets. Perhaps it's a very interesting idea. And actually, there was this study I just come across actually, just now. Actually, I haven't heard about this one before. There's a report actually in Scientific American you can check out, which of course is kind of written more magazine style, which is really nice. Actually, I find it really, really nice to read those things. They're kind of more accessible and things if you're not used to reading particularly a scientific paper, for instance. And this was actually all about. So this was first life with alien DNA, so-called alien DNA created in a lab. Alien DNA there meaning DNA that isn't usually used by living things on Earth, if that makes sense. So of course we're not referring to DNA that has been found on other planets or anything like that, but this is DNA that's using different bases, basically. So if you think about the building blocks of the DNA itself, and this really is getting to the very core of life on Earth, really. Those instructions contain the DNA, of course. They're what code for all of the cells and all of the variety that we see around us. And of course, the DNA itself is really the kind of thing that's doing the replicating. The genes, of course, are kind of based on that DNA. And what they tried doing basically was using different bases in there. So bases that aren't usually present in DNA, for instance, and you can generate lots of different types. And they called it like these strange types of various amino acids. And they actually made a bacterium successfully replicate those strange or alien types of DNA, which is fascinating. So that really does kind of suggest on a very kind of like a basic level. Of course, there's much work to be done in this area, and we really don't know. As Sasha said there, we really don't have any evidence yet for life on other planets, but that really does open up that amazing possibility even further, I suppose. Also talking about kind of Jurassic Park in general. And of course, they were saying there that the key point, I think, to take away from their discussion there about the, whether that's possible to do was really the time involved. So basically what their argument was, okay, theoretically, yes, it is possible, but the problem comes with actually having that DNA. So the DNA, of course, degrades, and that's the problem. And so their kind of problem, the way they framed it was saying, yeah, you can do it, provided you have the DNA, and that's the problem bit. So you really need a sample that has that DNA in, obviously, and those really can't be that old, otherwise the DNA is degraded. So they were saying, you could build a more recent park, perhaps, if you like, of more recently extinct organisms, so mammoths and things like that. Yeah, fine, we can get their DNA, and we probably could go ahead and resurrect a mammoth in that sense. But that was their main point there, I guess. And of course, language as well. So they were talking a little bit about language, resurrecting different hominids, for example, different primates that were very closely related to us, for instance, which have gone extinct, might be really interesting to do. But I think for now that's quite enough talk from me. Let's leave it to the prof, shall we? Let's leave them till they come on next time. We can talk a bit more about this and ask them some more questions. But I believe we have had a request. Stephanie, is that right?
We've had a text all the way from the Midlands from Maggie asking if we could play the Pink Panther theme tune because she really enjoyed the interview this morning. Oh. She's also then said that she would love to bring back I
believe it's the dodo, as she said.
It was the dodo,
The dodo is a good idea, actually. The dodo is great. Flightless bird, of course. It's really, really cool. I can see why you'd want to bring that back. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Anyways, we better get that on, haven't we? Really, we'll get that request on straight away, shall we? So do stay with us. We will be talking a little bit more about some of those topics. I've actually got a recording that I'm going to play next for you as well. 2 recordings actually, and this relates to the discussion that we've just had there. Perhaps if you'd like to think a little bit more about it. And one of the things, of course, that they mentioned, I'll just very briefly tell you what's coming up, and then I'll shut up, basically, get that request on. But they were talking about, this language, and of course, language is exclusively human and things, and there have been attempts to, teach other animals language and things like this, and of course, there are constraints, there are limits to that. That's what Sasha was saying. And one of these really interesting examples of that, actually, is a very famous in the scientific world African grey parrot called Alex, who worked with the famous Dr. Irene Pepperberg. And basically, Dr. Pepperberg taught this parrot a kind of rudimentary form of language, in that she taught it to use lots of different sounds, of course, that sound like human words, things like wool or green, different categories of things. And she basically taught this parrot to distinguish different objects and use these distinguishing categories, if you like. So it's kind of like a basic form of language that she was teaching this parrot. So that's fascinating. I'm going to play a very short clip of that. Also, I'm going to play a clip, and I think this is brilliant. So slightly less scientific, but still pretty awesome, I think, this one. This was actually some guys actually decided to try and construct. So they got a kind of a 3D model, basically, that they'd kind of constructed using fossils, basically. So that this fossil data that inputted into a computer to make a 3D model of the fossil of a dinosaur skull. And actually, they were trying to recreate possible noises that could have been made by this particular sound organ based on the structure of the skull. Of course, a lot of educated guesswork goes on here, but I'm absolutely fascinating. I think I'm going to play that sound for you. It's quite spooky. So it's basically like the sound that a potential dinosaur could have perhaps made. Spooky stuff. I'm going to play you that. But as I said, and as Steph has just announced there, let's get the request on, shall we? I guess this is yet another theme tune for Cameron Cahoon, do we think, Steph?
I think so.
Yeah, I think this might be his actual number 1 theme tune. Let's get it on anyway, shall we? Enjoy. Bit of a storming request there from Maggie. Nice one. I think that's absolutely awesome. Right, okay then. I did promise you a couple of clips now. I'm going to play you this clip, actually, which I think is really interesting, actually, just to hear, what animals are capable of. And this is this African grey parrot called Alex, actually, with Dr. Irene Pepperberg that I mentioned just a second ago there. But I'm going to play this little clip, and this is basically the Dr. Pepperberg basically asking this parrot various questions. So she'll ask it, simple questions such as, what matter? Meaning, what's this made of? And then the parrot will have to choose from a set number of sounds, or words, of course, that, it's learned to categorize different objects. And then she might ask, how many are there? And a basic kind of numbering language. So the parrot might learn, for example, 1 to 10 or something like this, and it's quite remarkable, really. I don't think we often think about this, actually, that there is a lot of kind of things that we would probably traditionally assume are exclusively human, and we can apply those to animals. But as Sasha said in his discussion, though, there are of course limits to that kind of exchange. But anyway, let's listen to this little clip. I'll see if you can hear this clearly. Actually, this is particularly interesting, I think. Hang on. Let's get this on for you, see if you can hear this, okay?
Alex, what matter?
Whoa!
That's right. How many?
2.
That's right.
So if you heard that, that's quite amazing, isn't it? So that little voice there, the whoa, that's a parrot. It's crazy. So you can look up more about that if you're kind of interested. There's a lot of it's kind of a whole field, of course. This cognition and things. Did a fascinating, actually, bit of a module, actually, long, years ago when I was doing my biology undergrad degree. Years ago, all about comparative cognition, was essentially looking at cognition in animals. Anyway, let's move on then. I would like to play you now a little highlight of mine, actually. I did say at the beginning of the show, this is our first year, so 1 year anniversary of the show, which is pretty cool. Exactly a year since we've been on air for you on the Thursday morning breakfast show. So I wanted to just play this, actually. This is a little game that I invented to play with Sam. So this was back when we had the fabulous and dangerously handsome Sam, who joined me in the studio as co-presenter. But here is this little game stuff. Did you hear this one? It's called Pass the Pepper. I think it's very imaginative, very brilliant.
Pass the pepper.
Pass the pepper.
Pass the
Pass
pepper.
the chili pepper. Okay, though.
Oh my.
That's the kind of crucial word there. Chili, isn't there?
Chili.
Basically, it's a bit like. Have you ever played that game? I think it's. What is it? Pass the hot potato or something like that.
You have to keep passing it around.
Yeah. So it's basically that, except when the music stops. So I don't know how that game goes, but you just pass it around basically.
Yeah.
But I kind of merge that with musical chairs, so that when the music
Okay.
stops, you have to take a bite of the chili pepper.
Oh.
How genius is that? Anyway, I'm going to play this for you. I think this is absolutely brilliant. And I've also actually left in the bit at the end of this. This was a ridiculous idea because we basically really failed to close up the show. We did this right at the end of the show, thinking, it won't matter right at the end, and we basically it just failed big time. We couldn't even close it. I couldn't even speak for a start. The computer managed to crash as well, just at the crucial moment. I was like, should we give that a listen? I think that's particularly entertaining. So this is basically like a virtual welcome back to Sam as well. This one. So just give this one a listen. This is one of my personal favourite moments, I think. Enjoy. Now, Sam, here's the game. Right, very simple rules, right? So it's a bit like musical chairs, but so the music's going to randomly stop. Okay.
Yep.
We pass these chilies. So I've got a chili, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, when it stops, you take a bite, pass it on. When the whole chili's gone, you please. This game's good.
This is a great idea.
So when you run out of one, you just grab another chili, right? And we keep going. Tell you what, pass it, put it round your head once, pass it back.
And then
you start with the chili.
I'll let people know where the chili is by saying
you'll have
to
a chili.
you.
That's a good idea.
I'll say to me to you. It's
don't forget
back to the chuckle box round the head to you.
Right, okay. Well, let's get the little announcement on, shall we?
Contestants, take your positions. May the greatest chili connoisseur win, and may he be infinitely cooler, forevermore, than Sam. In fact, we all know Ben is going to win. It's obvious. Sorry, Sam. Cue the ridiculously awesome beat. I love this job.
Oh, here we go. Ready, mate?
To you.
Right, I got it.
To me.
Oh, I'm
scared.
I'm scared.
To me. To you.
Around the old head. Here we go.
To me.
Oh, I'm not liking this.
To you.
Actually, it's more like pass the bomb, isn't it?
To me.
The bomb is the...
To you.
Oh.
To me.
I have no idea when this stops, by the way. I did it
To
randomly.
you.
Okay.
To me.
Oh.
To you.
Oh, it's going to stop any second.
To me. To you.
Oh, no. Oh, man. Oh, it's hot.
Okay,
It's hot.
to me.
It's hot.
To you.
Me again.
Again.
No. It's really hot, man. It's really hot. Oh, God.
To you.
Oh, it's boiling.
To me. To you.
I best not get this again, man.
To me. To you.
Woo!
To me.
Man, I'm starting to feel the pain. Oh, not again. Oh. I'm actually in pain. I'm in pain. I'm not having any more. Why did I do this game?
To me. This is the greatest game.
Oh, you got it. That was you, man.
That's still me. Cat here.
You still got it, man. Taking a chili.
It's yours.
No. I'm boiling.
Bite it. You got your own too. All right. Ben's gone. How you doing over there, Ben?
Oh, man, it's so hot.
Well, he got what he deserved. That is really hot. I need to go and get a drink. So I'm going to play something so I can have a drink. Oh. Sorry. This is really difficult to keep talking. This is going on. Oh, the computer's frozen, Ben. And I can't talk.
Oh, don't worry about it, man. Keep going.
All right. Well, anyway, thank you for listening. This has been a pleasure.
Well, coming to quickly close up.
Ben, yeah. So,
a lot of pain.
thank you to all the guests that have been on the show today.
So there you have it. I think you get the idea. That was a very painful moment, but one of my personal highlights, I think. What do you think, Steph?
I loved it. I love listening to that.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm gonna finish up actually with one final interview for you today. Actually, and this is going to be another highlight of the show. This is my interview with UB40. I think I'm going to play this again today. And the reason I'm going to play this again is because their new album that they spoke about. So they exclusively revealed to us here at The Source.
They did.
That they had a new album coming out. So it was exciting news when they revealed that.
Very exciting.
It is now out, which is cool. So let's give that another listen. But before I play that, I'm going to play you that dinosaur sound that I promised you.
Oh, yes, the dinosaur sound.
Yeah. I'll explain a little bit about that in a second. And then at the very end, I have one more request that I'm going to fit in today.
Oh.
It's a fantastic request as well.
I can't wait.
So, yeah, do you like the sound of it, Anna? And then we'll close up. And we'll close up because it will, of course, be nearly 9 o'clock then, and we do have to love you and leave you at that point. But I'm going to play you this dinosaur sound. So just to give you a bit of background to this was essentially used at essentially, I think, as part of an exhibit at a museum. So I'll just read out a little bit of information about this one. So essentially, scientists at Sandia National Laboratories and the New Mexico Museum of Natural History and Science have collaborated to recreate the sound a dinosaur made 75 million years ago. So as I said, this was all based basically on computer modelling of the structure of this skull, which features this kind of bone kind of sound producing pipe, if you like. Is essentially what it is, and it comes out of this. Out of this laboratory, basically, that collaborated to do this, and you can check this out if you want to just Google it. And I would tell you the name of the dinosaur, but I'm not going to be able to pronounce this. I'll try. Parasaurolophus. Yeah, is that what that looks like to you, Steph?
Parasaurolophus.
Something like that. And it doesn't matter, does it? Anyway, but you can basically find that if you search for Sandia National Laboratories. You can come across this press release when they basically tried to create this noise. So this is basically like educated guess, if you like, by using computer modelling, computer simulation of the skull of this dinosaur at what noises it could potentially have made. Here it is. You're going to find this quite spooky. Imagine this. You could actually be listening back in time. This is amazing.
Oh.
Should we give this a little listen?
Yeah, let's give it a listen.
So it really is that. You hear that sound? Quite an amazing noise there, don't you think, Steph?
I loved it.
I can't believe that could actually potentially have been like really listening to a real dinosaur. Pretty cool, right?
Very cool.
Okay, well, the time has come for us to begin closing up. I'm going to leave you with a bit of an interview towards the end of the show now. But for now, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, basically.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks very much indeed as well to our very special guest today, Cameron Cahoon, former GCHQ senior analyst. Thanks for coming on the show today to tell us about that new show, Deep State. You can check it out tonight. Starts at 9 on Fox, that Deep State drama about a spy featuring Mark Strong. Yeah. Starring Mark Strong, sorry. Not featuring, starring. And thanks again as well to Sasha and Dave, the profs. The profs returned today. Thanks for their... they came on the show to chat about that Jurassic Park question. Again, if you've got any questions, do get them to me. If you want to win these tickets, also get in touch. And I can get those sent out to you. One lucky winner. All you have to tell me is what you think the coolest organism that you would like to bring back. If we're thinking about Jurassic Park, what organism do you want to see from any time point that's extinct? What would you bring back personally? Coolest answer wins those tickets. But that's all from us for now. So thanks for joining us. Going to leave you with this little interview and perhaps a little song request as well. But for now, here's UB40. Enjoy.
Yeah, we can hear you, Ben. How you doing?
Oh, yeah, very well, thank you. An absolute pleasure to be talking to you this morning. Thank you very much for chatting to me. I just wonder, guys, if first of all, if you could just say your names for our listeners, just so they know who they're listening to, if that's all right.
Hi, I'm Astro. And I'm Ali from UB40.
Sweet. Very warm welcome to you guys. Thank you. Now, this is great. Exciting news in the world of UB40, right? Because you've been involved with an absolutely fantastic campaign. You're spearheading this brilliant recovery effort after this recent hurricane, encouraging people actually to come back to the Caribbean. And I've just watched the video and it's fantastic. You can tell that it's actually come about from just a genuine love of the area that you're in.
Well, we do love the Caribbean, We went to the Caribbean as soon as we could afford to,
Yes.
back in
back in 1981, I think, was when we first got there.
Yeah.
And we've been going back ever since, you know. And as far as the Hurricane Irma goes, we were on the East Coast touring when it was all happening.
Yes.
And if you believed the news, you know, you'd believe that that it was apocalypse and the whole place was destroyed,
yes.
which of course isn't the case. You know, 70% of the Caribbean wasn't touched by Irma, and the places that were are busy recovering now. But what they need to recover is tourists, you know, to help the recovery process.
Yes.
So we've made the Comeback Darling film to encourage people to come back, you know, darlings to come back to the Caribbean and enjoy themselves.
No, fantastic. A aptly named song as well. Brilliant choice of songs to remake the video for as well. And the video is awesome because it starts as well. It literally starts with you arriving there. It's awesome.
Yeah, well, it's also a tonic to watch that film, isn't it? You know,
especially in this cold weather.
Yes, exactly.
You know, it's like a little 4-minute piece of happiness, you know, and I mean that's what the Caribbean looks like, and that's what we're saying, you know.
And that's what people are missing.
It's open for business, you know.
Yes.
It doesn't close down, but it does need tourists, you know.
Well, that's it. It sounds like, you know, it's always wise, I think, just to, you know, take all the kind of headlines with just a bit of a pinch of salt in terms of these big kind of scare stories and things. Because, especially from the looks of your video, it just looks absolutely gorgeous as always there.
It is gorgeous. And Virgin Holidays have got a big January sale on, you know.
Yeah, so there's no excuse not to give it a try.
Yeah, exactly. Get out there and enjoy yourself, you know.
The closest I've been, actually, I popped to, visited the Bahamas before, this tiny little island called San Salvador, and it was honestly, like, it was just being like in paradise. It was incredible. We went there to look at coral reefs, actually. Beautiful.
Yeah, well,
fine, that's how most of the Caribbean is. That's how I visualise it. That's every time I go there. You know, the water's just as blue and the sky's just as blue as it always has been, and the sand's just as white.
I'm a scuba diver, you know, and I've dived in every ocean in the world, and the Caribbean beats every other ocean.
Yep,
and
without
down
a doubt,
for
perfect visibility.
Exactly.
Yeah, that
less suspended particles.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Actually, it's such a beautiful area, and I'm not surprised at all that you choose to dive in the area. It's absolutely beautiful. And you can see so much wildlife as well, like around these reefs. It was a mind-blowing experience.
Turtles and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
That's what the Caribbean's all about. Stingrays, and there's a fantastic stingray park in Antigua, you know, that the tourists love going to.
Fantastic.
You know, and we've all fed turtles there and everything. So yeah, I mean it's still there and it's still beautiful, and don't believe the hype, you know.
Yes.
Still paradise.
Yes, and the food as well, guys. The food is just awesome. I can remember
you just can't go wrong with the food out there. No. Everything's just so fresh. If you're eating fish, it was swimming around, 20 minutes before it was on your plate.
Steamed fish and okra.
You just can't get any fresher than that. And you just eat so healthily. In fact, you'd have to really go out of your way to find some bad food.
Yeah, well, we live on snapper and things like that. You're eating plantain and steamed banana. It's all very good for your structure.
Yes. No, it really, really is beautiful. I can remember, we were big fans of the food, actually. Even on this tiny island of San Salvador, the food was fantastic. And I can remember we went into the local town, we were talking to the locals. It was fantastic, really, really lovely. And, and it was all that on top of the fact that we were in a place which just looked like your imagination of paradise. Unbelievable.
Yeah, well, that's why we made the film, to remind people, just how pretty it is, just what a beautiful place, what lovely people they are out there as well, and
yes.
Just to encourage people to go back to the Caribbean.
And one last question, guys: where can we send people to check? Because you can see this video on YouTube, can't you? You can Google it, find it, and watch it for yourself.
Yeah, on Virgin Facebook as well.
Fantastic.
All the social media channels, the regular.
Fantastic. Well, guys, I'm going to have to as well on this show. I'm going to have to play "Comeback Darling" just to accompany your interview. I think that's the only way forward. I think.
Okay, wicked. Well, it was from Labour of Love 3. We didn't re-record the song, but we made a new film for it.
New film, yeah.
So "Comeback Darling."
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning, chaps. A real pleasure to have spoken to you. Just before I let you go, is there anything that you'd like to add, actually?
Well, just that we've got a new album coming out. It'll be in time for Mother's Day. We've got a single coming out on Valentine's Day.
As far as going to the Caribbean goes, Virgin Holidays have got a big January sale, so get out there and get yourself a cheaper holiday to the Caribbean, the most beautiful place in the world.
Fantastic. And guys, where can people check out the new album? Because that sounds exciting.
The album will be out that March
on Universal Records.
On Universal.
Fantastic. Excellent. So everyone's going to be excited about this. Lots going on in the world of UB40 then. Fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks very much for your time, guys. I'll let you go. Thank you.
Cheers, Ben.